Hey there, welcome to the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. And it's the first episode of this brand new podcast. I actually have a podcast of my own already. It's called He's Hot, but Something is Off, which was started as a personal podcast for me to talk about whatever I want. But I know on my Just Joey T YouTube channel, it's most popular and famous for the cruise and travel related YouTube videos. And when I started doing my personal podcast, occasionally I would venture into some sort of cruise related topic. And those always had a lot of extra listeners. So I thought, why not just branch that into its own separate podcast? And here we are, the very first episode of the very creatively named and titled Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, just Joey T. I did try to come up try to brainstorm in an attempt to come up with some more clever, less boring name for this podcast. I asked AI, it wasn't helpful. I asked my friends, they weren't very helpful either. But hey, if any of you have a better suggestion for the title, a name for this podcast, comment down in the comments or just send them over to me. But for right now, we're just going to stick with this working title. All right. For this first episode of this podcast, we're going to talk about two cruises that Atlantis have just pretty recently announced for Europe. So we're going to have a July cruise going from Barcelona to Lisbon on the Virgin Scarlet Lady in July. That's the 13th to the 22nd. But today, I actually want to focus on the one they announced for August, which is their quote-unquote Mediterranean cruise. It's on another Virgin ship, the Resilient Lady, which they have sailed before, August 21st to the 31st. And I'm going a little out of order here. I want to talk about the August one first because that is nearly sold out. So I wanted to get the information about that one out to everyone as quickly as possible before it completely sells out. So you guys have some useful consumer advice to make a decision before it completely sells out and why we still have that option. The July cruise is not quite sold out yet, but I do predict both of these will probably sell sooner rather than later. The other one I will talk about in next week's podcast that comes out next week. So subscribe to the podcast. Hope you all keep on listening as I dispense my hopefully useful to everyone consumer and travel advice for these cruises. Hey, when was the last time you really took care of your skin? The skin is the largest organ in the whole human body and is doing so much for you. It protects you from germs and cooties. It keeps you warm when you're cold. It keeps you cool when you're hot. It's making vitamin D. It gives you the gift of touch and sensation. And that's just scratching the surface, so you better take care of it. I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone so that you can serve fun while serving face. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at ServeLabs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. All right, let's get right on it. The Virgin August Mediterranean cruise. Let's start with the basics. This cruise starts and ends in Athens, Greece, and it departs Athens on Thursday, August 21st of 2025. And it comes back to Athens Sunday, August 31st. So it's a 10-night cruise, which is a little bit on the longer side, but it's not atypical for a cruise in the Mediterranean. So Atlantis, this year in 2024, they actually did two 10-night cruises back-to-back on the exact same ship. And those sold out as well, and those are quite popular. So it's another 10-night cruise. The ports of call, this cruise, by the way, all the details about it, including all the itinerary details and the dates and times for when the ship is scheduled to dock at the various ports of call, are all now on the Atlantis website. So feel free to go there. Sometimes, once in a while, they might make some changes to the itinerary or other things like that. It's rare, but it has happened before. So I'll always reference the Atlantis website, especially if you're listening to this podcast sometime in the future, just in case anything has changed since I recorded this. But right now, as it stands, the cruise will be starting in Athens, going to Santorini in Greece, He's gonna go to Turkey. We'll stop by Istanbul. Actually, has an overnight in Istanbul. We'll be there for about 26 hours, and is also going to Kusadasi in Turkey. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Kusadasi. And is also going to Cairo in Egypt and also Mykonos in Greece. Circuit partiers amongst you might recognize Mykonos as hosting the Excelsior Mykonos annual circuit festival set of parties in August every year. I did double check the dates for Excelsior Mykonos in 2025, and it ends 2 or 3 days before this cruise actually docks in Mykonos. So for those of you that were hoping for, oh, maybe the cruise is going to Mykonos, maybe you can catch one of the nighttime parties in Excelsior. Bad news. The timing just doesn't quite line up for that. But yeah, a pretty good list of ports there. And the ship is the Virgin Resilient Lady, which Atlantis has sailed on before. Virgin Voyages is the name of Virgin's cruise company. If you haven't heard of them before, they launched pretty recently. They were supposed to have launched in 2020 until the pandemic came in and they delayed their launch a little bit. But now they have a few ships out and about sailing, and Atlantis has actually chartered a few of them several times already in the last 2 or 3 years. All the ships are pretty much the same design. They just have like a few different copies of the ship. A mid-sized ship takes about 27 to 2,800 passengers at maximum capacity. There's about 1,400 cabins and suites, and it has a crew of about 1,100 people or so working and living on board to make sure everything runs smoothly. And Virgin, being unique in the travel industry, most cruise lines cater to families. So most cruise ships have a playground area, a kids area, a teenage area, all these other kind of amenities and areas for minors. Virgin Voyages is a all adults cruise line, so it was built from the ground up that way. So none of the ships have any facilities designed for minors. So there's no like playground or splash zone or daycare or any of that kind of stuff. And it's very specifically designed for adult taste as well. For example, there's a tattoo parlor that is on the ship. So that's kind of sort of the unique thing about the Virgin Voyages as a cruise line, and also for all of the ships, which are very similarly equipped. Other good things about the Virgin cruises is that you get basic Wi-Fi for free for everyone. Most cruise lines will charge you extra for any sort of Wi-Fi. It usually is pretty expensive. You can easily pay over $200 for a 7-night cruise just for the Wi-Fi on Royal Caribbean, for example. But all of the Virgin ships, you get basic Wi-Fi for free. There is an upgraded option for the premium Wi-Fi, which allows streaming, and that would cost extra. But for most people, the basic Wi-Fi will work great. If you just want to like DM and text and message people, emails, social media, things like that, the basic Wi-Fi is pretty much all you need. All the basic non-alcoholic beverages are also included at all the Virgin ships as well. Again, this is where most other cruise lines, they don't even give you bottled water for free. As an example, you can get still or sparkling water, non-pressed juices, sodas, teas, and drip coffee for free. And then there are also self-serve filtered water stations for your water bottles at various places on board the ship as well. Finally, pretty much all the restaurants actually are included. I think they do advertise every single restaurant is included, but through my research, I don't know if they're still doing this or they might have made a recent change, but in the reviews I've looked at for the Virgin ships, it's possible that at some of the restaurants, maybe just like 1 or 2 of them, there are parts of the menu that might be some sort of premium options where you could or might need to pay for those options if you wanted to order them. But by and large, all of the restaurants and all the food is free. Again, this is unlike a lot of other cruise lines, pretty much every other cruise line, where there are some free restaurants and free food options. And there are also some other, what's usually called specialty restaurants, where you have to pay for the food at those specialty restaurants. All right, that's a quick overview of Virgin Voyages in terms of them as a cruise line and what the main differences are compared to most of the other cruise lines out there, especially the ones that Atlantis charters, which are usually Royal Caribbean and Norwegian NCL. So let's skip down to booking this cruise. Like I said, the cruise is mostly sold out, but not quite. There is still some rooms left. This is going very, very quickly. So if you know you want to get on this cruise and you don't have a problem with booking a balcony room, or you actually want a balcony room, it's actually the most popular type of rooms on most cruise ships. And it's usually the most abundant type of room on most cruise ships as well. Right now, as I'm recording this on Sunday night, November the 17th, that is the only type of room available. I'm looking at the Atlantis website. The only type of room available right now is the Central Sea Terrace, or the TC code. All of these have 2-letter codes. TC, the Central Sea Terrace, which is basically a regular, average, run-of-the-mill balcony room. Central, quote unquote, in that is not a balcony room that's at the very front or the very back of the ship. It's just one of the regular balcony ocean view staterooms that you get along the side of the cruise ship, which is what people think of usually when they think of a balcony ocean view stateroom. So if that appeals to you, you know you want to go on this cruise, and you know you want a balcony ocean view room, go book that right now. But that's the only type of room that is available. Like, there are all these other suites. There's all the there are other types of balcony staterooms. There are ocean view staterooms that are basically you just get a window, but you don't get a balcony and the window doesn't open. There are also interior rooms as well, where no windows, no view into the outside, no balcony. All those other ones are sold out. Again, if you know you want to go on this cruise for sure, and you know for sure you want a balcony room, just go book that one type of room available, which is the Central Sea Terrace room. Just go book it right now, because it will sell out, and I think it will sell out very quickly, because this cruise, and also the July cruise, it was only released to alumni on October the 29th. What's that? 3 weeks ago? And it went on public sale 5 days before I was recording this, on November the 12th. So how Atlantis sells new cruises is usually they will do a alumni pre-sale. So alumni means people that have sailed with Atlantis before, people that have been on a Atlantis cruise before, or people that have been to one of the resorts. And they also sometimes classify it and break that down further by how many cruises you've been on with Atlantis. So if you've been on 30 or 40 cruises with Atlantis, you might get a earlier pre-sale than someone who's been on Atlantis and only cruised for 3 or 4 or 5 times. For this particular cruise, as far as I can tell, most of the ship went to the alumni. So during the alumni pre-sale, before the cruise was released to the general public, over half the ship was already booked just by alumni. So this is a very fast-selling cruise. And yeah, that if you want a balcony room, again, just go ahead and book that one balcony room type that is currently still available, as I'm looking at the website as I am recording this on Sunday night. Quick point on the rates, because all the pricing is listed there. Europe is never cheap. And if you've been on other Atlantis cruises, especially those that are in the US, you see the prices are maybe a little bit higher than what you might expect compared to a Atlantis cruise that sails out of the US, or even ones they've have done in Asia, for example. Europe in August is expensive, even if you are not going on a cruise. Flight prices in the summer to Europe are expensive. Hotels are more expensive, but everybody wants to go to Europe during the summer, especially in August, I think. August is like a very hot month for visitors going to Europe. So the prices are higher than your average Atlantis cruise, but given that is a Mediterranean cruise for 10 days, which is longer than like the usual 7 days, and it's in the middle of August, you know, when you put all of those factors together, the higher pricing does make sense. It's still a good value, given that, hey, it's a 10-day cruise, and hey, you're going to all these ports, and like it's in Europe, you're in the Mediterranean. It's quite a nice ship. This ship has only been sailing for like barely a year. Its maiden voyage was in May of 2023. So very new ship, a very modern ship. Very new cruise line as well. And yeah, there are a lot of pros to sailing on a Virgin ship, like I mentioned before. Free Wi-Fi, free non-alcoholic beverages, things like that. Okay, can I tell you something for real? Skincare is not really a sexy topic. No one's waking up in the middle of the night thinking, oh my God, I have to take care of my skin. I know I talk a lot on the podcast, I have a lot of opinions, and I have a lot of advice to give. But if you don't listen to me about anything, listen to me about this. You have to take care of yourself, and you also have to take care of your skin. I believe in it so much, and I think it's such a critical thing that I started my own skincare company, Serve Labs, to serve fun and functional skincare for everyone. And you know what? Not to toot my own horn, but people are always telling me, your skin looks so good, and I can't believe how old you are. Do you know why? Because I've been taking care of my skin for many, many years. But I know, for a lot of you, skincare just sounds like another chore. But I want to make it fun. And that's where Serve Labs comes in. Go to servelabs.co, servelabs.co, or follow us at Serve Labs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and discover how easy and fun it is to treat your skin right with Serve Labs. Let's turn our attention to sweets. And I'm just going to mention sweets very, very quickly. Atlantis usually has a separate process for taking reservation requests for suites. So for a regular room that's not a suite, they have like their website and you can go on there and book it directly. Obviously, you can go through a travel agent as well. For this particular cruise, all the suites are already sold. So that ship has sailed. And I think even people that were alumni and were part of the alumni pre-sale, I think not even all of those people were able to get a suite. Usually what happens is if there is a equivalent cruise last year to the one that they're selling, and there are actually 2 August Mediterranean cruises this year in 2024. Those would be like the equivalent cruises to this one that's coming in August of 2025. Basically, the people who did the Virgin Med cruises in 2024 have first dibs for this August 2025 cruise because the 2024 one was like the equivalent. So pretty much if you had a suite, you lucked out and had a suite somehow on one of the Med cruises on 2024, you were probably given first dibs to book a suite, possibly the exact same suite on the 2025 cruise. Getting suites is very, very hard. If you guys are interested in the process of like booking a suite or want to know more about that, free to let me know. Maybe I'll do a podcast episode on that in the future. But if you have your heart set on a suite, or this is a nice segue for what I want to talk about next. If you don't want a balcony room for whatever reason, like I said, there's only one room type left right now as I'm recording this, which is your typical run-of-the-mill, still very nice balcony room. Let's say you want a suite, or let's say you don't want a balcony room. You want something that's less expensive. Maybe you're a solo traveler and you don't want a roommate and you want a solo specific room. Because on the Virgin ships, there are some rooms specifically designed for solo travelers. And there are also some solo rates that Atlantis offers for those rooms. Basically, for everyone else that don't want a balcony room, we're going to talk about that next. Now, we're 9 months out from this cruise. It's November right now, 2024. This doesn't set sail until August of next year. Boys are going to drop out. I guarantee you. Like when you book for any kind of trip, almost a year in advance, life happens. People might get a new job. People might have to move for other reasons. Their best friend's wedding is now in August and now they can't go to the cruise. Like life happens. As they get closer to the actual date of the cruise, something comes up and now they have to get rid of the room. My advice is to join the Facebook groups for this particular cruise. Pretty much every Atlantis cruise, there'll be at least one, sometimes a couple of Facebook groups specifically for that cruise. Just search Atlantis Mediterranean or Atlantis Virgin 2025 in the groups search in the Facebook app or the Facebook website. And then you should see those groups come up. Join the groups and just keep an eye out, because when people want to get rid of a room, maybe not right now at 9 months out, but when you get to 5, 4, 3, or 2, or even just a month away from the set sail date, there will be passengers who are already booked with a confirmed reservation that want to get rid of the rooms. And a lot of times they will post onto one of these Facebook groups that, hey, we have a cabin for sale. This is the type of cabin it is. This is how much we pay, blah, 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 blah. So there's almost always a way to get onto a sold out cruise, assuming the cruise isn't happening in like a week. If you have the luxury of time, if you don't wait till like the very last minute, there are almost always several people that will be selling a room. And then, you can just have them transfer the room over to you. Atlantis will handle the actual transfer process. If you guys want more information about that resale transfer process, let me know. I'll eventually do a podcast episode on it, but I think it's one of the ones, especially with Atlantis, where there are some intricacies to that process that I think is worth knowing before you actually try that process out yourself. But switching gears, I want to talk a little bit about the solo-specific room types and room rates that are available. Well, they're sold out right now, but for those solo travelers where you are not interested in having a roommate and you want to maybe wait for and see if one of these solo rooms types and room rates might open up, i.e. maybe one of the people who have booked one of these solo rooms, maybe they're looking to sell and you might be interested in one of these rooms and that happens. So there are 3 types of solo rooms and solo rates. There's a solo terrace, which is a solo balcony room. There is a solo sea view, which is a window that doesn't open, or a solo insider, which is a inside room, no windows, no view out. And if you look on the pricing list for this cruise on the Atlantis website, they all have the word solo in each of the rates. 3 separate rates for solo travelers for the 3 separate room types, relatively easy to understand. Now, if one of these room types do open up, if you are on the Facebook groups and you're kind of looking for people that might be giving up one of their solo rooms, just know that all of the solo rates assume single occupancy. All the other rooms that are listed for like the Central Sea Terrace, the one I was talking about, that's the only one that's available right now. All the other rates, the prices you see on the website are double occupancy prices, which means that is the price you pay if there are 2 people that will be staying in that room. So the price you see listed, the Central Sea Terrace right now, I can see is listed for $2,649. And that's the price you pay before the fees that will be added on top of that. If there'll be another person also paying that price, staying in that room with you. If you want that balcony room, that Central Sea Terrace rate all to yourself, you'll need to multiply that listed price by 2 because you're the only person paying for that room. And then you still be charged the port fees for the single person. So that's what I mean by most prices are double occupancy. The solo rooms that are listed, those are single occupancy prices. Now, the solo terrace rate specifically is a little interesting because you don't get to pick your own room. You get a balcony room, pretty much the same kind of balcony room any other passengers would have, whether they're solo traveler or not. So it's a good value because you're getting a balcony room to yourself. That's like the cheapest way to get a balcony room to yourself with that particular rate. The drawback is you don't get to pick your own room. So just keep that in mind in case you're a solo traveler and you're on these Facebook groups and one day someone does a post and say, I'm selling my solo terrace room. Just know that that person doesn't know exactly what room they're selling, whereas most other rooms, when you book them, you usually get to choose the exact room, i.e. the room number, the cabin number that you want. But with that rate, it doesn't quite work that way. The solo sea view room and the solo insider rooms, specifically designed for solo travelers. So they're a little bit smaller. The beds are smaller. The square footage is smaller. The solo insider room is the cheapest way for someone to get onto a cruise solo. But that's a very small room and the bed is small-ish. You can't really fit 2 people on that room. Really is designed for 1 person. The bed really only fits 1 person. It's barely 100 square feet. So just keep that in mind. Finally, if you are not sure whether you want to go on this cruise, I think it's kind of sort of, there's two groups of people I see. People that want to go to Europe, and likely a lot of those people are alumni or have been on similar cruises before, and they kind of know what the experience is like. The likelihood is they have probably already booked this cruise as alumni. If you're not crazy about Europe and you're not based in Europe, right? Let's say you live in Canada, in the US, in Asia, in Australia, New Zealand, wherever. You're not already in Europe in August during the time that this cruise sets sail. And you're not specifically trying to vacation in Europe. You're not trying to visit Europe. You're not trying to be in the Mediterranean. Don't go on this cruise. It's that easy. Because it's 10 days long, which it could be a pro or a con, especially if you're newer to cruising, or maybe this is, you've never been on a cruise before. You're looking at the different cruises coming up next year that you could book, and you're looking at this one, it's like, oh, this maybe looks good. If you've never been on a cruise before, 10 days could be a lot. I would recommend a 7-day cruise, or even like a shorter one, like a 6 or 5-day cruise. But usually a 7-day cruise is the standard length for a cruise. If you've never been on a cruise ship before, and you're not quite sure where it's for you, I wouldn't go on a 10-day cruise. This is my very first one, because it could be just a few days too long. When you're on board, though, I've been on a couple of the Med cruises before, or 3 of them before, I think. I was on the one in 2023, not the one this year. But it's a really good port for sightseeing, and all the Med cruises that are in the summer, they always have really, really good ports. And it's a really good mix of, during the day, you can get off the ship. Most days, the ship is somewhere interesting. Go sightseeing, do tourist stuff, whatever you want to do. And then at night, come back onto the cruise, and then you can party, right? There's a nighttime dance party every single night on all the Atlantis cruises. So it's a really good mix of the sightseeing and the ports versus having the entertainment and the parties on the ship at night. So the Med cruises have always been quite reliable. So it's kind of something for everyone. Even if you're not a party person, just because the ports that the ship goes to, there's so much to see at those ports, and they're docked for the vast majority of the day. You can really kind of take your time and get off the ship and stretch your legs and go see different things. That's the beauty of the Med cruises, especially, in July and August. So yeah, it's kind of either you want to go to Europe or you already live in Europe, so it makes sense that way. Or otherwise, I don't think this is a cruise for you to go on, basically. There you go. So that's an overview of the Virgin Med cruise coming up in August 2025. It is nearly sold out. So again, book it right now if you want a balcony room and you want to go on this cruise. Otherwise, go onto the Facebook groups, and eventually, maybe not right now, but in the new year in 2025, there will be boys that want to get rid of their rooms for whatever reason. It always happens on every single cruise, especially the ones that sell out really, really early. The earlier it sells out, the more people usually turns out that want to get rid of their rooms just because life happens over the course of time. And yeah, but I think this will be a really, really fun cruise. Med cruises are always fun. Every time I've been on one, it's always fun. It's not too crazy, but it's like not too quiet. It's a really good mix of people. You do get boys that fly in from like all over the world. It is a really fun time. If you do choose to go, yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun cruise. All right. That's it for the first episode of the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast. Stay tuned for more cruise advice and gay travel advice, honestly. It's not just about cruises. Next week, I'm going to talk about the other European cruise that Atlantis has announced. It's going to happen in July of next year, 2025, going from Barcelona to Lisbon. And that one is not sold out yet. It's got quite a few different types of rooms that are still available. You can't look at that one on the website, but you want more details and my advice on that one, come back next Monday for the next episode of the podcast. Until next time, bye y'all.